Hello, it's Matt, Anchors Away Junk Removal and Hauling. We haul it all but the mother-in-law. Subscriber asked me what jobs did I do or what job did I do in the Marine Corps. So when I joined the Marine Corps, right, there was a story behind that. I'm from Norfolk, Virginia, and I decided because, if y'all don't know, Norfolk is the largest naval station in the world, and they house probably the most sailors. So of course I'm not joining the Navy. Nothing against my fellow sailors, I love them. Have so many good friends that are in the Navy. My company's called Anchors Away Junk Removal for a reason. We're in the Mecca of the United States Navy here in Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Hampton Roads area. So what happened was I was in college and I really just realized I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to continue my higher education. Being a 18-year-old male, not really not my cup of tea at the time. So I went around to different recruiting stations. I went to the Army, I went to the Air Force. Well, the Air Force was not, they weren't open. They're always closed because they meet their needs without having to be out and about recruiting. Talked to the Army, and it just didn't feel right. Didn't really know where the Coast Guard recruiting station was until later in life, but I felt like I was put on a path to be different. Family, I got Air Force, Army, I got Navy. I got so many different branches of background in my family. I had to be different. I told y'all in many, many videos, I'm different. I'm not that, normal, everyday 9-to-5 type guy. I have to be special. So I didn't even go to the Navy office because I knew that they were gonna want me to go above and beyond. Like, here's the Navy SEALs. They probably wanted me to become a dolphin because I'm that badass. I'm just kidding. I went to the Marine Corps office and it was very relaxed, easy. Walk in, it wasn't any kind of pressure back then. There also, 9/11 hasn't happened yet. There wasn't any kind of wars that were going on. The Gulf War, 91 and 92, so we're a couple years past that. So talking to the Marine recruiter, it was really laid back. We sat down, we had great conversations, and we didn't really get into what the jobs were because in the military, your job is based on your qualifications, physical and mental qualifications, right? So you can't be an electrician if your ASVAB score, which is the entry test for the military, isn't a certain score. And if you're colorblind, you can't be an electrician because you can't see the wires, right? The color of the wires. So the first thing I was told is I need to take the pre-entrance exam, which at that time, and it's probably called something totally different now. I think it's LCAT or something, but it was called the ASVAB. So I took the ASVAB test, was the very first thing. It was like, okay, before we get too deep into recruiting, let's just see if you could pass the ASVAB, which is based on an 8th grade reading level, 8th grade math level. So you're talking like 8th grade, right? And hey, a lot of people bomb it. But a funny story is when I went in there, I ain't gonna lie, I got nervous, right? I got in my head, I got nervous. And what I did was I ended up, and these are the bubble sheets. If you guys are old enough to remember the bubble sheets, multiple choice. And it's a series of so many tests in different backgrounds, whether it's mechanical, math, English comprehension. So it's a series of different tests. So being nervous and kind of, almost being a chicken shit and backing out the last minute, I put all C's on the test, right? I just went down the bubble sheet, C's. My teacher back in school, I remember telling me, hey, if you don't know the answer, see your way out. Well, I see my whole ASVAB. I put C's for everything. And unfortunately, good news and bad news, right? So I get done with the test. Recruiter's like, hey man, That was the fastest anybody's ever taken this test. I'm like, all right, well, how did I do? He was like, well, I got good news and bad news. I'm like, oh man, just go ahead and tell me the bad news. He was like, the bad news is you don't have a lot to choose from, but you passed the test. So minimum score for the Marine Corps is a 31. I got a 32. You can write it in the comments. You can hate on me all you want to. I carry a rock in my pocket every day to remember, you know, I might have been a rock back then when it comes to aptitude, right? But street smart, totally different, right? You gotta be street smart. You gotta have some education, a little mix of everything, and you'll be okay. Not only early on in life, but later on in life. Just gotta have a little bit of common sense, right? Not a big deal. We got that, check in the box. So I'm looking at the list of things that I could do. One of those things was supply warehouse clerk, which basically you're in a warehouse every single day and you're basically stocking shelves, right? You're stocking, you're getting new orders in, you're putting them on the shelf, you're getting ready to supply your military unit, the Marine Corps unit, with whatever it is, beans, bullets, Band-Aids, and so forth. I'm like, no, next. And then there was diesel engine mechanic. Never was good at anything mechanics growing up other than holding a flashlight. You know, I'm an expert flashlight holder. That wasn't my thing either. And then came along transportation operator, so a truck driver for the Marine Corps. I'm like, man, if it's got wheels, I got it. It don't matter if it's a manual, automatic, it's driving. So I get to drive a truck for a living. I was like, that's the one that I want. I want the truck driver position. Hey, I got the score for it. I'm in there like swimwear, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, let's go. Oh, you gotta go to boot camp first. You gotta go to combat training after boot camp. Then you gotta go to your job school. Like, there's steps to this whole thing, right? Go to boot camp like 30 days later, crush that, not a big deal, had so much fun. It is very challenging, but that was the first time outside of being at home that I was challenged with other things besides, you know, my home environment. I was challenged with the difficulty of being away from home, instructors at the boot camp level or recruit training level yelling and screaming and doing their choreographed thing every day, right? It was a very, very challenging thing, but I'm like, yo, we get 3 meals a day. We get some really good sleep at the end of the night, whatever, 13 weeks, got it, right? And if you want to know more about Marine Corps boot camp, send me a message. I'll be happy to talk to you about the Marine Corps and about the process with recruit training. And then you go to combat training, which is 17 days if you're not infantry, right? 17 days of blowing things up, hiking. Like, I am in love. It's everything I ever imagined what the Marine Corps and the military would be like. And then I got to go to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which is an Army base in BFE, Missouri. If you're from Missouri, go ahead and comment below. But it's in the Ozarks area, like near Lake Ozark in Missouri. So go there. They teach you how to drive the military trucks with the manual transmission, the automatic transmission. I ended up with all the tactical vehicles. I ended up with a 44 passenger bus license. I ended up with all these, you know, really cool license, right? That don't really mean shit outside of the military other than you have the ability to learn how to drive something new, right? So you can't take your military license and go get a CDL when you honorably discharge from the military. So I was a truck driver. My first 4 years, I was hauling everything from helicopters to helicopter engines. I was driving an ambulance. I got a few times where I had to drive a few deceased members of our illustrious military during a few incidences. You know, at this time, the first 4 years, you're really making a name for yourself. You're working hard. And that's when you learn that life is only as good as you put into it. If you prepare and you work hard, you're gonna get something out of life. And in the military, if you work hard, you're gonna get something out of it, especially if you're not a shitbag, all right? It's not really brain surgery. It's not rocket science. This is just do what you're asked to do it to the best of your ability, and go out there, kick ass, take names, and just remind yourself like you're a part of something bigger than yourself. You know, set your goals, accomplish your goals. Just that is what taught me a lot. That set the foundation. Those first 4 years set the foundation for the rest of my life, you know, going forward. So then, after doing the truck driving thing for a little bit, and they see like you got a little bit of common sense, you got some little bit of knowledge, you've been in for a minute, right? I got to be a dispatcher. So I got to dispatch those military trucks at various units around the world that I was at. You know, my first unit was in North Carolina. If you're from North Carolina, you know where Jacksonville is, or Actionville, North Carolina. Hey, you know it's home of the United States Marines. But my second unit was right after 9/11. So right after 9/11 happened, I go to 3rd Marine Division, Camp Schwab, Okinawa, Japan. Camp Schwab, well, Okinawa first is an island off the coast of Japan. Okinawans and Japanese people are totally different, right? An Okinawan is Okinawan, a Japanese person is Japanese. They don't like to mix the two between them. But Okinawa was significant in World War II, it was significant during Vietnam. It puts us in the East Asia area so we can have outreach for different Asian countries. So I go to Okinawa, Japan. I've been in for, at this time, 2.5, 3 years, 3 years probably. They made me a dispatcher. So I dispatch military vehicles to go on these runs for whatever. Was it hauling? Was it troops? Whatever it was. I got to dispatch these vehicles. So I got to learn the old school way of dispatching vehicles, right? And then coming back to the States, I'm re-enlisted for another 4 years. I come back to the United States. I get stationed back in Jacksonville, North Carolina, at Camp Johnson. Camp Johnson is a small logistics base that is also a schoolhouse for transportation mechanics, like diesel mechanics, your administrators in the Marine Corps, your logistics officers. I mean, it's a schoolhouse, but it has to be supported by building maintenance, transportation, you know, your guys that do the beans, bullets, band-aids. So I was put in a position when I got there to do what we call the logistics office. We call it S4. S4 is logistics and transportation. So I got a chance to be the guy in the headquarters building that got to order all the ammo, got to order supplies for the units. I got to be in charge of a cafeteria, or we call it a mess hall. And that mess hall, the first year I was there, ended up getting mess hall of the year, or, you know, military cafeteria of the year for those that don't really know about the military. I was blessed, right? I was blessed to have a variety of different jobs under my belt, and I'm moving up through the ranks. I'm moving up with some more significant type tasks and jobs. So got to do that. Made sure that every building was prepared for new oncoming Marines. I was in charge of maintenance, so I would get with their unit personnel that was in charge of the barracks and make sure that the rooms were good to go. So I had a lot more responsibility, right? So as you're seeing this, right, you don't just normally have one job. You have multiple jobs. And if you stay in long enough, you're gonna have a lot of different jobs, right? So then I'm really tight with the command. I want to get back into the fight. So I got sent to Norfolk, Virginia, which is, you know, it's where I'm from. And I got an opportunity to be a Marine stationed in my hometown. Security Force Battalion at the time. Now it's Security Force Regiment. I got a chance to lead an entire unit of transportation, right? Maintenance, operators, dispatchers. I got a chance to do that as a semi unit leader, I'd say small unit leader. And there was an opportunity to come up to go to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, which I took. And I didn't realize that is probably the most beautiful place that I've ever been to in my life, is Guantanamo Bay. Very, very small, right? Really small area of Cuba, but it puts Marines on the fence line, making sure that nobody defects or nobody tries to come on board. But it was great time, like 113 degrees every day with a very tropical breeze and, you know, perfect napping weather, right? If you ever to go in the Caribbean, Jamaica, somewhere like that, you would understand the weather is beautiful. It's hot, but it's very beautiful. And while I'm there, I'm in charge of all transportation. And we just so happen to be teamed up with an Army transportation unit. Joint force is what we call it. Joint forces, where the Marines and the Army share a facility. And I'm only an E5. The Army has an E7, which is a sergeant first class. So a Marine E5 is a sergeant. So we get to run the motor pool, is what we call it, the transportation, make sure we do all the ranges. I got a chance to teach the 9mm pistol qualification while I was down there. I got to teach the rifle qualification down there. I just try to put myself in different positions to be able to, you know, expand my horizon and to gain more knowledge, to become a better overall Marine. So I'm at the top right now. Like, I run all things transportation wise, but I get back to the States, or I come back to the States, and I have orders waiting for me. I thought I was going to go to Parris Island, South Carolina to be a Marine drill instructor. I never got to be a Marine drill instructor. I got recruiting duty orders. Man, my collar's all lazy. I got recruiting duty orders, and recruiting duty, that school is in San Diego, California. You do that school, they tell you where you're going to end up, right? So I ended up in Pensacola, Florida, where recruiting duty, you're no longer, you take the uniform, basically, the way you perform, the way you talk, everything, dropping F-bombs, everyday life as I knew it as a Marine. I had to pivot, right? Just like business, sometimes you got to pivot into something else. So now I'm wearing dress blues every day. I'm in high schools every day talking to kids. I'm making sure that I'm smoozing the freaking counselors so I have access to student lists and grades and all sorts of good stuff. Recruiting duty was 3 years, but thankfully God blessed me with Pensacola, Florida, right? It's a very, very nice town. It's a naval station down there, so you have a lot of veterans, you have a lot of military, and you know, a lot of Marines and young sailors that are going through school at this base. So I enjoyed it. Recruiting is what taught me to, you know, it's not rah, kill, and you know, all this craziness and shoot 'em up, bang, bang. It taught me how to not only sell myself, sell the military way of life, it taught me to be a more polished person, you know, and I did very well. My first year, I was Recruiter of the Year for the Southeast District for the Marine Corps, and I was in the top, you know, for the next couple of years. But I did it being myself, quirky, different, special, crown eater, whatever you want to call it. I did it successfully being who I am, and what I love to be is just being me. I'm not going to go out there and fake the funk, because I don't know how to be somebody that I'm not. So getting to be a recruiter, right? It's no different than people that call you from Indeed and they saw your resume and they want to recruit you to their company. You know, it's along the same lines, but you're selling the military, the Marine Corps especially, during a time of war, because we're in OEF and OIF and Iraqi freedom and enduring freedom, which is Afghanistan. You know, it's not really a good time to be recruiting, and there's a lot of people that, you know, they like to be telephone gangsters or internet gangsters, you know, kind of like YouTube. there's a lot of internet gangsters out there that want to talk tough. But so recruiting duty kind of gave me that little polish. And then after recruiting duty, I was back to Okinawa, got to run a motor pool, got to be in charge of a transportation platoon of 28 young men and women. And an opportunity came up while I was in Japan, Okinawa, to go to jungle warfare training. So I went to jungle warfare training, which is the north part of Okinawa, the northern part of Okinawa, triple canopy jungle, getting to provide transportation and instruction on warfare in the jungles in case we ever have to go there again, right? Talking Vietnam era Marines. So getting to do that was a blast, getting to live out in the woods and in the wild. My room was a single wide trailer, you know, the whole time I was there. So at the end of that, from then on out, at every other unit that I went to before I retired, I was considered a transportation chief. I ended up running a transportation unit alongside a maintenance chief who ran the maintenance side and overseeing basically all the operations for the command. So that's, you know, in a nutshell, me as a Marine and what I did in the Marine Corps. It started off as a truck driver and going on small tasks as a young Marine, filling sandbags, and it all the way to working my way to the top, right? So that's what I did in the Marine Corps. And even after I got out and I retired, I thought I was supposed to take a 9-to-5 job. I ended up going to Baltimore. I ran 5 junkyards. We call them auto recycling centers. Just the wealth of knowledge just continue to grow as you get older, as you get more experience. And go from there back to Virginia. In Virginia Beach, I got an opportunity to run a tactical gear manufacturing plant where I made tactical gear like bulletproof vests, soft armor, stuff like that, until I realized, like, I'm sitting here getting a salary at this dollar amount. We're making the company $15 million a year, especially when Ukraine popped off. In the beginning, we were sending a lot of stuff for the State Department overseas, and we were making so much money for the company. And I just realized, like, why am I doing this for somebody else when I could do it for myself? I've been successful at so many different jobs. I've had a lot of failures too. So life doesn't always come easy. You're gonna have to learn from your failures and your mistakes, which I made a video the other day where I made mistakes. So anyway, that's what I did as a Marine. That's what I did in the military. It's a little bit of my background. If you liked it, hit the like button. Comment below if you want to hear more of whatever it is, you know. Tell me what you like to hear about or what videos I can make that you'd be interested in. And we'll just go from there. And until next time, hey, just hustle. No excuses. Get out there, get what you deserve. Make your dreams come true. Until the next video, thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching. Subscribe. And if you watch till the end, stay tuned for the next video, which is every Tuesday and Thursday. And I'm going to try to go live here soon. I don't think I've ever been live, but I want to try to go live. And we're going to see when I can schedule that. But until then, it's time to get to work. So I'll see you guys on the next video. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. Whenever you're watching this, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hey, thank you again, and I'll see y'all on the next video.